Welcome to all. Today, as a part of the course on Insolvency and Bankruptcy law in India, today we are going to discuss about Insolvency Bankruptcy Board of India. So the legal framework relating to IBBI and establishment of IBBI, composition of IBBI and other things relating to IBBI, today we are going to discuss. In the previous class, we have discussed the legal framework relating to information utility. Then we have discussed registration of information utility, how you are going to register the information utility. Then governing board of information utility. Then core functions of information utility. Okay, so while discussing the core functions, we have discussed how they are going to maintain the data bank and other things we have discussed. Then importance of information utility. Then we have discussed the challenges. So one of the major challenges is that we are having only one information utility right now. So it may have the problems with the problems of monopoly. So that can be one of the problem. So let us start the concept of IBBI. So today we are going to discuss about Insolvency Bankruptcy Board of India. So the Insolvency Bankruptcy Code 2016 is the central legislation that provides for the establishment of IBBI as a regulator for IPs, IPAs and information utilities. So today's slide, in today's lesson, I have used the slides where IP means information insolvency professionals, IPA means insolvency professional agencies, IU means information utilities. So wherever you find the word IP, IPA, IU, accordingly you have to interpret. Okay, so IP means insolvency professionals, IPA means insolvency professional agencies, IU means information utilities. Okay, then Insolvency Bankruptcy Code, there is a legislation which is providing for establishment of IBBI. Now let us look at the key provisions relating to IBBI. Section 188 provides for the establishment of the board, which provides that Section 188 provides that which creates the IBBI as a statutory body. Then it declares it as a body corporate. Body corporate means which is having the separate legal entity in the eyes of the law. So IBBI is considered to be having the legal personality. Then which has the perpetual succession. So perpetual succession means, let me explain you generally. Perpetual succession means, so especially in case of companies are expected to have the are considered to be having the perpetual succession. Perpetual succession means company will be forever. The members may come, may go, but the company will be in existence. So company is a entity which is created by virtue of law. So how to put an end? How to put an end to the company? So you can put an end to the company only through the process of law. So even in the same here also in the same manner, IBBI is having the perpetual succession. Okay, so it is not going to be affected by the members, and which has a common seal. Okay, so as an entity is not having the hands, so it cannot do the signature. So that's why. So instead of signature, instead of hand, we are having the common seal. Okay, and power to acquire, hold and dispose of the property. So IBBI is, because it is considered to be body corporate, it is having the power to acquire, hold or dispose of any property. So it can purchase the property, it can hold the property and it can sell the property depending on the requirements. Okay, then IBBI is having power to enter into the contract, and they can file a case against anyone, and anyone can file a case against the IBBI. So it can sue and be sued. Now let us discuss about section 189. So section 189 speaks about composition of board. So the IBBI will have chairman. So the chairman will be appointed by the central government. Then 3 ex officio members. They are nominated from the Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, MCA and Ministry of Law. So one chairman will be there, 3 ex officio members. So one from the Ministry of Finance, one from the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, one from the Ministry of Law. Then one member who is nominated by RBI. Then 5 other members nominated by central government. Okay, so out of this 5, minimum 3 members, minimum 3 must be full-time members. Okay, so totally 1 chairman, 3 ex officio, 4 plus 1 member, 5, then plus 5 members. Okay, so totally 10 members can be the chairperson, 3 ex officio members, 1 member nominated by RBI, 5 other members. Okay, then how you are going to appoint these members? So these members are appointed or their appointments are based on the recommendations of the selection committee. Okay, so one selection committee will be there. So this selection committee will do the screening. Based on the screening, they are going to appoint the members. Okay, so generally this selection committee will be headed by the cabinet secretary. Then section 190. Section 190 speaks about term, salary and removal of members. Okay, so the term of the office is 5 years or till the age of 65 years. Okay, for chairman and full-time members, okay, they are going to be there in the IBBI for 5 years or till they achieve the 60, till they attain 65 years. Okay, then can you remove? Okay, so you can remove. There are possibilities are there. So on the grounds of insolvency, if any member becomes insolvent, or if there is any misconduct or conflict of interest, that means he's having some other office, okay, whereby there is a conflict of interest is there, or else physical or mental incapacity, okay, conviction of an offense involving moral turpitude. Okay, so these are all the various grounds where you can remove any member. Okay, salary will be prescribed by the central government from time to time. Okay, then section 196 and 192. Okay, it is providing about powers and functions of the board. So key functions under the section 196 are registration and regulation of IP, IPAs and IUs. So insolvency professionals, insolvency professional agencies and IUs, information utilities. Okay, so under section 196 we are having the provisions relating to provisions relating to registration and regulation of IP, IPAs and IUs. Then what they are going to do? They are going to monitor and regulate the performance of these entities. Okay, so IBBI is going to monitor and regulate the performance of these entities, that is IP, IPAs and IUs. Then they are going to lay down the minimum eligibility requirements. Okay, so who can become the insolvency professional, who can act as a IPA, who can act as a IU. So they are going to prescribe the minimum eligibility conditions and standard of conduct and professional development guidelines. Okay, yesterday, as already we have discussed in the previous class, we have discussed about the professional development to the insolvency professional and insolvency professional agency. They are supposed to conduct the regular educational training programs. Okay, so they are going to give the CPE hours. So these are all prescribed by the IBBI. Then IBBI is going to specify the mechanism for disciplinary proceedings, okay, including suspension and cancellation of registration. So how to do the registration, okay, how to cancel the registration and disciplinary proceedings. So everything is provided by the is given by the IBBI. Then conducting examination for qualifying as insolvency professionals. Okay, so whoever wants to become the insolvency professional who is satisfying the eligibility conditions as discussed in the previous classes. Okay, so these examinations are conducted by the IBBI. So these are all the key functions of the IBBI. Okay, they are going to publish the information, data, research, guidelines relating to insolvency. Now let us look at the section 195. So section 195 is speaking about, it is providing the advisory committee. So according to section 195, the central government may constitute an advisory committee to assist the board in policy matters. Okay, when they are framing the policy matters, so central board, they may constitute an advisory committee which is going to guide the IBBI in framing the policy frameworks. Okay, then let us look at the supporting rules and regulations. Okay, so IBBI is empowered to issue subordinate legislations. Some of the key regulations includes, okay, so insolvency professionals regulation. So as in the last classes we have discussed, IBBI insolvency professional regulations, which provides for qualification, registration, duties and code of conduct for the IPs. Okay, then another important regulation is IBBI model bylaws and governing board of insolvency professional agencies. So 2016, these regulations are 2016. So generally these regulations provides for model bylaws that to be there, and governing board, how the governing board, the composition of governing board in insolvency professional agencies, and how to set up the insolvency professional agency. So everything is there. Everything will be there in the model bylaws. Okay, these regulations. Then IBBI Information Utilities Regulations 2017. So these regulations sets the rules for registration and functioning of information utilities that store financial information related to the insolvency. Okay, so these three are major regulations where they are going to regulate, okay, who are all subordinate authorities, okay. So please remember, it does not mean that IBBA is not going to frame other regulations. So whatever we have discussed till now, CRP regulations, or in the next lessons we are going to discuss about insolvency regulations or liquidation regulations. So all these regulations were framed by the IBBA only. Okay, but these three regulations majorly concentrating on the regulation of other other bodies. Okay, so other pillars of the IBC code. Then we are having other regulations, IBBA grievance and complaint handling procedure regulations 2017. So through these regulations we are having the provisions relating to establishment of grievance redressal mechanism, okay, how they are supposed to conduct the meetings, okay, so how to receive the complaints, okay, how to dispose of the complaints. So all the details, all the provisions relating to complaint or grievance mechanism is there in these regulations. Okay, now let us look at the administrative framework of the IBBA. So the IBBA, it is reporting to the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Okay, so under the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, we are having this IBBA and Competition Commission of India. Okay, so your institution IACA. So these are all the various institutions. These are various things generally which will report to the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Okay, so this IBBA is going to report to the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Okay, and the accounts of the IBBA, okay, they are supposed to be audited by COG, Controller and Auditor General, under section 194. Okay, so COG auditing is compulsory, and they are supposed to submit, or they are required to submit an annual report and annual accounts to the central government. Okay, because it's a government organization, they are supposed to submit the annual report as well as annual accounts to the central government compulsorily. Now let us look at the judicial oversight. Okay, the decision, suppose because IBBA is a regulatory authority, parallelly it is also quasi judicial. Okay, so that is disciplinary proceedings they are going to take. Okay, so if any person is not satisfied, okay, so the decisions of the IBBA, okay, can be challenged before the NCLT or NCLAT depending on the matter, so which can be challenged before the NCLT or NCLAT. Then Supreme Court is also having the power, okay, to review the final decisions via Article 136 of the Constitution of India. Okay, by virtue of Article 136 of the Constitution of India, Supreme Court is also having power to review the final decisions taken by the IBBA. Then let us discuss about the powers and functions of the board. So this is the main agenda for today's class. Okay, so 196 of the IBC code provides for powers and functions of the board. So let us look at the 196. The board shall, subject to general directions of the central government, they are supposed to perform all or any of the functions what they are going to do. Okay, so IBBA is going to take care of, they are going to register, renew or withdraw, suspend or cancel. Okay, so registration of IPS, IPs or IUs. So IBBA is the proper authority who is going to register. Okay, maybe IPA, IPs or IUs. Who is going to renew? Okay, generally if the registration is done, so specified period will be there within which you are supposed to renew it. Okay, possibilities is they can withdraw the registration given to any person, or they can suspend, or they can cancel also. Okay, so these are all the powers of IBBA. Now promote the development of and regulate the working and practices of IPs, IPAs, IUs. So IBBA is going to promote the development and regulate the working and practices of, okay, how they are supposed to work. Okay, so what are all the best practices to be followed by this IPAs, IPs and IUs, okay, other institutions, for the purpose of in furtherance of the this code. Okay, maybe you can have some other institutions also. So all these institutions are governed by IBBA. Then IBBA is going to specify the minimum eligibility requirement. Okay, whenever if you want to register as an IPA or IP or IU. So in previous classes we have discussed the eligibility requirements for the registration of IPA and IPs and AU. Already we have discussed. So all these eligibility requirements are prescribed by the IBBA only. Okay, and they are going to levy fee and other charges for carrying out the purpose of this code. So for the purpose of this code, suppose take the example, whenever if you are making an application, imagine you are making an application under section 7 or section 9 or section 10. Okay, the fee is prescribed by the IBBA. Okay, so they are going to levy and other charges for the carrying out the purpose of this code, and including fee for registration and renewal of IPS, IPs and IUs. Okay, so whenever if you want to go for registration of IPA, so specific fees will be there. Okay, so you are expected to pay that fee. Then specify by regulation standard for functioning of IPA, IPs and IU. So as already we have discussed in the previous classes. Okay, so model law will be there. Okay, so IBBA is going to prescribe the model law, how you are expected to work. So they are going to specify by regulation standard for functioning. Okay, so as already we have discussed, for insolvency professionals you are having separate regulations. For IPS you are having separate regulations. So through regulations they are going to prescribe the standards. Then laid down by regulation the minimum curriculum for the examination for IP. Okay, for their enrollment as IPA. So what they are expected to read. Okay, so to qualify insolvency professional, so what is the curriculum? Okay, so this curriculum is prescribed by the IBBI. Then carry out inspections and investigations on IPS, IPs and IUs and pass such orders as may be required for compliance of the provisions of this code. Okay, so because the registration is given by the IBBA, IPA or IUs, these people, they are all under the purview or they are all under the control of IBBA. So if they fail to follow any terms and conditions or any regulations, then IBBA can conduct the inspection and investigation also. Accordingly, once through investigation, if something is proved wrong, then IBBA is having power to take the necessary steps. Okay, they are having power to impose the penalties and other things. Okay, then monitor the performance of IPS, IPs and IUs, and they are having power to pass any directions. Okay, so power to give any directions as may be required for the compliance of these provisions of this code. Okay, so to comply with the provisions of this code or to comply with the provisions of the regulations. Okay, by virtue of this act, IBBA is having power to frame the regulations also. Okay, so they are going to monitor the performance of IPA, IPs and IUs. Okay, then they can call for information and any record from the IPS, IPs and IUs whenever there is a requirement is there. Okay, and IBBA is going to publish the information relating to data, studies and other information, like let me give you a few examples. Okay, how many how many CRP proceedings are going on. Okay, so what is the claimed amount? Okay, what is the actual admitted amount? What is the percentage? Any haircut? So all the data relating to the CRP process, liquidation process. Okay, so entire IBC regime. Okay, so all the data relating to entire IBC regime is maintained by the IBBA. Okay, then specify by regulations the manner of collecting, storing the data by IU. So as already we have discussed in the previous classes. Okay, so IBBA has prescribed the regulations whereby they have prescribed how IU is expected to maintain the data security, how they are expected to store the data, how they are expected to transfer the data. Okay, whenever there is a requirement is there, how they are expected to transfer the data. So everything is prescribed by the IBBA only. Okay, then they are going to, IBBA is going to collect the data relating to IBC cases. Okay, so that the public can know what is happening. Okay, so they are going to collect the data and they are going to maintain the data and they are going to collect the data and publish the data relating to insolvency cases, and they are going to disseminate the information relating to the cases. Okay, then constitute such committees as may be required. Okay, so they can constitute the committees also. Then they are having they are supposed to promote the transparency and best practices in its governance. Okay, so then maintain websites and such other universally accessible repositories. Okay, so if you go to IBBA website, so a lot of data will be available. Okay, so all the judgments will be available, your acts will be available, regulations will be available, minutes will be available. I mean, regularly IBBA committee will meet. Okay, so the minutes will be available and recommendations. Okay, public announcements will be there. So all the data will be maintained at IBBA website. Okay, then they are having power to enter into an MOU with any statutory authority. So for furtherance of the IBC, okay, IBBI is having power to enter into any MOU with other statutory authorities. So as yesterday we have discussed, so in case of, okay, in the previous classes we have discussed that in case of delisting of, okay, so delisting of any company, corporate debtor, through the process of resolution plan, then you are expected to follow IBC and delisting agreements also. Okay, in such cases, IBBA is expected to work along with SEBI. Okay, so that they can have uniform rules and regulations. Okay, there are exemptions are there from the applicability of delisting regulations to the CD, whoever is undergoing the CRP process, there are exemptions are there. But these exemptions you can get only when you are having any MOU or any when you are dealing with other people, unless you are dealing with other authorities. Okay, so these exemptions, these things will not come. Okay, so that's why IBBA is having power to enter into any MOU with other statutory authorities. Okay, then issue necessary guidelines to IPS, IPs and IUs and specify mechanism for redress of grievances, okay, against the IP, IPS or internally also how they are supposed to redress the grievances. Then conduct periodic study, research and audit of the functioning and performance of IPA, IPs and IUs. Okay, so they are going to conduct these studies. Okay, research wing, separate research wing will be there. So they are going to do the research and they are going to do the auditing of this IPS and IPs. Okay, then specify the mechanism for issuing regulations. Okay, including code of conduct of public consultation process. Okay, so please remember, generally whenever IBBA is giving any regulations, before that they will give the draft regulations for the public comment. Okay, so consultation. Okay, so anyone, whoever is interested, they can give the suggestions accordingly. Okay, so public consultation will always be there before framing any rules and regulations. Then make the regulations and guidelines on the matters relating to insolvency and bankruptcy as may be required under this code, including the mechanism for time-bound disposal of assets of the corporate debtor and debtor. Okay, so they are going to make the rules and regulations for the timely disposal of the cases. Okay, so what to be done, okay, what is expected from the government. So they are going to make the recommendations to the central government also, and apart from this they are going to make the regulations. Okay, so if you observe CRP regulations, previously in the previous classes we have discussed CRP regulations, timelines are prescribed. Okay, the maximum time limitation for completing CRP process is 180 days. Anyway, exceptions are there, extension can also be given, but 180 days. So if you observe regulation 40, modal timelines are there. So these modal timelines are prescribed by IBBA. Then perform such other functions as may be prescribed. Okay, so by rules and regulations and by virtue of legislation, central government is going to prescribe certain other functions also. Then the board may make model bylaws. Okay, so these model bylaws can be adopted by the professional agencies. Then these things can provide for, these model bylaws can provide for minimum standard of professional competency. Okay, so whoever is becoming the member in IPA, that is Insolvency Professional Agency, so they are expected to have minimum standards. Okay, then the standard for professional and ethical conduct of the members, then requirement for enrollment of a person as a member. Okay, so who can be a member in IPA, so these requirements you are going to prescribe. Then for the purpose of this class, the term non-discriminatory means lack of discrimination. Okay, so they are not supposed to discriminate based on the sex, gender, caste, place of birth. Okay, so you are not going to discriminate. Okay, so without discrimination you are expected to make the rules and regulations for the enrollment of the persons. Okay, then the manner of granting membership, how to give the membership. Okay, there are particular formats are there, in the specified format only you are expected to give the membership. Okay, then setting up the governing board for the internal governance and management of IPA in accordance with the regulations. So IBBA is going to set up the governing board. Okay, so as per the regulations you are expected to have the governing board. So in the previous classes we have discussed how to form the governing board. Okay, so what is the composition of governing board in case of IPA we have discussed in the previous classes. Okay, then the information required to be submitted by the members, including the form and the time for submitting such information. Then specific class of person to whom services shall be provided, you have to specifically include, you have to specifically state to whom we have to provide the services. Okay, so sometimes at a concessional rate you are supposed to provide. Then the ground on which penalties may be levied. okay, upon the members of IPS and the manner thereof. So how to impose a penalty on IPs, insolvency professionals, because members of IPS means nothing but insolvency professionals. Okay, so how to impose a penalty, what are the grounds, okay, when you can impose a penalty. So everything is prescribed by the IBBA. Then a fair and transparent mechanism for the redressal of grievances, as already we have discussed. Establishment of the redressal grievance mechanism is one of the core function of the IBBA. Okay, so they are supposed to have a fair and transparent mechanism for the redressal of grievances against the members of IBA. Then the ground under which the IPs may be expelled from the membership. So when can you remove the when can you expel IP from the IPS? Okay, so what are all the grounds that is going to be prescribed by IBBA. Then quantum of fee and the manner of collecting the fee for inducting the members as its members. So how much fees you are supposed to pay? Generally annual membership fees will be there. So you are expected to pay the annual membership fee. So this annual membership fee will be prescribed by the IBBA. Then procedure for enrollment of a person as members of IPA. So if somebody wants to enroll as a member of IPA, then obviously he is expected to qualify certain eligibility criteria. Okay, as already we have discussed, he is expected to have minimum 10 years of experience as a CA, CS, CMA or advocate. Okay, then subsequently he can write the examination. Then after qualifying the examination, he is expected to undergo a training with the IPA. Then after completing that, he can be registered with the IPA. So this procedure is prescribed by the IBBA. Okay, then how to conduct the examination? Okay, so where to conduct the examination? What is the duration of the examination? Okay, for enrollment of IPs. So everything is prescribed by the IBBA. Then the manner of monitoring and reviewing the working of insolvency professionals. Okay, how they are working, they are going to get the feedback, and are they working within the time framework or not, they are going to verify. Okay, then the duties and other activities to be performed by the members. Okay, the manner of conducting disciplinary proceedings against its members and imposing the penalty. So IBBA is going to prescribe the manner. Okay, so for each and everything, please remember they are going to frame the regulations. Okay, so they are going to prescribe the manner for conducting the disciplinary proceedings against the members. Then the manner of utilizing the amount received as a penalty imposed against the any IP. So how to utilize the penalty. Okay, then these are all the various functions. Okay, so section 196 further provides that notwithstanding anything contained in any other law for the time being in enforcement. So this IBBA is vested with the powers of the civil court. Okay, so while exercising their jurisdiction, while exercising their power, IBBA will have the powers of civil court. So these are all general powers. Generally these powers will be there to any other authority. Okay, so the discovery and production of books of accounts and other documents. So they are having power to issue the summons. Okay, so summoning and enforcing the attendance of any person. Okay, whenever they are conducting the inquiry, they can summon and they can enforce the attendance of any person. Okay, then inspection of any books of accounts, other documents at any place, issuing the commission for examination and witness of the documents. Okay, so they can examine the witness and they can ask the any person to submit the documents. Okay, so these are all the various functions of IBBA. Now let us recap what we have discussed till now. So in this lesson, we have discussed about establishment of IBBA, how it is established, how it was established. Then we have discussed about the composition of IBBA, who will be the chairman, ex officio members. We have discussed the composition of IBBA. Then we have discussed in detail about the functions and powers and functions of the IBBA. Thank you.